It's 6:30 on some clocks, so I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. Let's rise for the flag salute. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. I will entertain a motion to approve or amend our meeting agenda tonight.
Madam Chairman, I move that we accept the agenda as given.
Excellent. Is there any discussion? No? All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Do we have any public comments signed in over there, Jackie? Okay. I have one letter that I'd like to read aloud. This is from Ed Amick, and it's addressed to the school board members. He writes, and I'm only going to read the letter part. He wrote out a history of the wrestling program at North Mason School District, which is very interesting, and I want to read that a little bit closer later. But he says, I apologize for the lateness of this letter, thanking you for agreeing to the renaming of the East Edition. It is a real honor to be recognized by the community and the school for doing a job that I truly felt passionate about. Not many people are lucky enough to have something like this happen in their lives. I have received many awards from my work in the sport of wrestling, from county to national recognition, but I can truly say that I am humbled by the thoughtfulness of the wrestling family and you, the school board and administration. The sport of wrestling was non-existent in the district when I was hired in 1964. It was basically an unknown sport to me as well. I came with a dream of someday being a basketball coach. I'm going to assume that most of you, except Laura Foster Bode, who was in high school at the time I was hired, know little or nothing about the history of the wrestling program. So since I believe knowing about your district's history is important to those that serve their community, that I would like to provide for you a brief history of North Mason Wrestling. I have attached a copy here. Again, I want to thank you for your part in making this great honor take place for me. I would also like to thank you for all that you do to promote all programs that encourage our young people towards becoming happy, productive citizens of our community and country. Sincerely, Ed Amick.
All right.
That's very nice. And there's, like I said, this, I could already tell, very interesting history that I can pass around to the board later.
Could we have a copy of that just sent to us? That would be good to have.
Yeah, we'll make a copy here. I think we just had hard copies for me and Dana, for sure. We'll make copies. So student board members, we have two new board members here with us tonight. Welcome you two. Can they say a little bit about themselves before the oath of office, or do the oath?
And then have them
Okay.
introduce themselves?
Oh, during their comments. Yes,
Yes.
let's do that.
All right.
All right.
So I am going to ask you each to stand where you are. And we will do them one at a time, okay? Because it's weird when I say I and have you both say your name at the same time. All right, and we'll do the oath of office. At the end of the meeting, you and I will sign it together so we can register it with the county and everything, and but you will be official once we take the oath. So we'll start with Emily. I, Emily Bybee,
I, Emily Bybee,
do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the State of Washington,
and the Constitution and laws of the State of Washington,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
perform and discharge the duties
perform and discharge the duties
of the office of Student Board Member,
of the Office of Student Board Member,
North Mason School District Board of Directors,
North Mason School Board
North Mason School District Board of
District
Directors,
School Board of Members,
according to law
according to law
and to the best of my ability.
and to the best of my abilities.
Thank you. Aaron. I, Aaron Kilberry,
I, Aaron Kilberry,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the State of Washington,
and the Constitution and laws of the State of Washington,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
perform and discharge the duties
perform and discharge the duties
of the office of Student Board Member,
of the office of Student Board Member,
North Mason School District Board of Directors,
North Mason School District Board of Directors,
according to law
according to law
and to the best of my ability.
and to the best of my abilities.
Welcome and congratulations to both of you.
We're at student board member comments, so this happens at the beginning of the meeting after public comments, where you each have a few minutes to talk about what's going on and kind of give a little report. And we would love to hear a little bit about yourselves. I know I got a chance to chat with you guys, and so if you might share with the board and our public.
I was just gonna bring up the U Science.
Oh, hi, my name's Aaron Kilbury. I've been a part of the student government here at North Mason for many years. I've been ASB president. I'm currently senior class president, and I'm just really excited to be a part of the school board. Here to represent my fellow student body, and am excited to be a part of all this.
Hi, I'm Emily Bybee. I'm a junior, and I'm very excited for this opportunity, and I search for any ways I can help my students and my fellow classmates.
Thank you both.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so consent agenda. I would entertain a motion to accept our consent agenda or modify it as needed.
I move that we accept the consent agenda as written.
Perfect. All right, any discussion? I have a comment, which is just that the PLU and the St. Martin's University agreements are pretty momentous, and I feel like that is so exciting for our students to have this automatic acceptance coming forward from both schools. So I just wanted to
And I would like to jump
comment
onto
on
that. We've had the opportunity for the past year or so to participate in the GAP program with 5 of the 6 state schools, Washington State, Eastern, Central, Western, and Evergreen. And that program is an automatic acceptance that the students meet a minimum set of requirements when they apply through the open or the common application and indicate that they want to attend those schools. This program will also give our students automatic acceptance, but it is a little bit different in that we are sharing data. We are sharing data with the state schools too, but we are sharing data with PLU and with St. Martin's, and they each have a minimum level of criteria that they're looking at, and this is kind of a first round, so kids who don't meet this initial could go ahead and apply and still receive scholarships and acceptance into the university. But at this level, students from North Mason who meet that criteria will receive a letter from those universities inviting them to attend prior to going through an application process, and they will also receive an offer of scholarship aid at that time. So that's very, very exciting and very motivating for kids, particularly for kids in our schools who might not have realized they could go to school
right.
beyond high school. So it's very exciting.
At what point do they fill out the FAFSA?
They'll have to do that sometime in the winter time, but the FAFSA is delayed this year.
Okay.
Normally it's available in October, and it's not available until early December because they are changing it. And so they will get these letters probably before the FAFSA is available, but usually you have to fill that out. The earlier the better during your senior year, but well before you decide to say yes to a school, so that if they want to offer you additional aid or something, they have the information to do that.
Yeah, I just wondered how they are offered aid without information like the FAFSA, or is there a different way
Well,
that they get that?
you know, and we've had, Jackie and I had an orientation meeting with PLU, and we haven't had that deep of conversation yet, although I know staff at the high school have or will have soon with St. Martin's. But for example, with PLU, every student is getting offered a minimum or a specific level, a starting level of scholarship, which is extremely generous.
Okay, wow.
And then as they get more information, they would change that award potentially and offer more.
Wow.
So it's really, really exciting.
What is the occasion for this?
Well, they've actually, I know less about St. Martin's program, but PLU has, but they're similar. And PLU has had a program for probably a decade called the 253 program, where this experience has been open to kids who live in the 253 area code. And so basically, we got from both schools an invitation to this fall to add ourselves in
Wow.
to the
All
groups
right.
of kids who are eligible. So of course, we filled them out and said yes. And
Nice. That is just so cool.
yeah.
Is there any other discussion?
I'll just make a comment. I really want to highlight Hanson Paint for donating $2,500 for paint or the statue refinishing.
Cool.
I think that's
Yeah.
really was a highlight in the donation report.
There were a lot of donations this time. That was exciting to see.
That was cool.
Any other comments? Great. All right, so I actually asked these student board members to do their advisory vote. So I will say, all in favor, student advisory board members, and you would say yay or nay, and I would take that vote. So for the student board members, there's a motion on the table. Would you like to make a vote to accept the consent agenda?
Sure.
Yay.
Yay.
Perfect. All right. And for the board, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, we are at special education program. Garrett Bull.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Garrett Bull. I'm a special education teacher here at North Mason High School and James Taylor High School currently. I've been in the district since 2017. I've worked at every building in the district with the exception of Feller. And since 2019, I've been working with mainly upperclassmen, juniors and seniors at the high school, as well as all students at James Taylor and the HomeLink programs. I'm here today to present how students that receive special services under IDEA, which I'm going to identify here soon, graduate, because it's an ever-changing thing that I feel there's a lot of misconception about, and just graduation in general changes every single year as far as what's the requirements. So unfamiliar terms and acronyms in special education. IDEA, like I said, is the Individuals with Disabilities Act. An IEP is Individualized Education Program or Plan. SDI is Specially Designed Instruction. High School and Beyond Plan is HSBP. I'm referencing it here. That is a general education term, though. And FAPE, Free and Appropriate Public Education. Transitions. I'll have you know that I use transitions when I'm talking about transitions in this sense. I'm talking about the term used in special education to describe moving from secondary education, like middle and high school level, to post-secondary education, independent living, college, technical school, etc. There is a term in special education that is used from developmental preschool to kindergarten, and that's also sometimes called transition, so I want you to be aware of that. Kevin's Law allows students who will continue to receive special education services between the ages of 18 and 21 to participate in the graduation ceremony and activities after 4 years of high school attendance with their age-appropriate peers, even if all state and local grad requirements are not met. A lot of people are unaware of that, so I want to make sure that's clear. Next slide, please, Jackie. So it's very important to understand that all students are general education first. And so as I have, there's 3 steps to requirements to graduate high school in 2024. You have to complete a high school and beyond plan, you complete a graduation pathway, and then you complete, of course, all your high school student core area requirements. You heard a lot last month from our principal at James Taylor High School and CTE director Lexi Hatfield and Kim Walters about like the high school and beyond plan in particular, along with their CTE pathways that they talked about, and use science and the things that we use. But basically what that means is it starts no later than 7th grade, it's annually reviewed, and it helps students answer 3 questions. Who am I? What can I become? And how can I become that?
All right.
No matter what program you use, whether it's the voice or the use science, we're moving towards use science as you heard last month. And then you complete a graduation pathway. Little disclaimer, I'm not an expert on graduation pathways. Like I said, this changes every single year, and this is Gen Ed requirements. So there's a CTE, Career Technical Education pathway. Military, if somebody's planning on going into the military, they have to pass the ASVAB, and that basically takes care of their exam requirements. Score of 31 or higher, I know about that. Post-secondary exams, so college acceptance exams, dual credit exams, like dual credit courses for Running Start, CTE, dual credit exams. Of course, the Washington State assessment, which is the Smarter Balance Assessment, and or WAAIM, which is a rubric-style assessment used for sometimes people with severe disabilities. Transitions courses, which is not what I'm talking about here. That's the Bridge to College courses. So those are courses that upperclassmen take in high school that allow for college credit in the core, like English and math. They could take Bridge to College courses. And then performance-based pathway, which is still extremely new. New for 2025 and beyond. That's when our district will be really participating in that, so I've heard. But some districts are starting it in 2024, which is why I have it up there. And then, of course, the high school subject area requirements. Washington State requires that they receive at least 24 credits. I have them listed there. But local agencies have the authority to add or subtract, not subtract, but add credits as well. And so, as listed up there, James Taylor High School and Homelink students are required to receive 24 credits. And North Mason High School students are required to receive 27 credits. Okay, next slide, please. In the IEP, there's a thing called the transition pages. This is a requirement after the year that a student turns 16. Because IEPs are valid for a calendar year, it's any point in that year. So usually 9th or 10th grades, you're required to have that. But you could start it, it's recommended that we start it basically as soon as that high school and beyond plan starts, because these pages have to be aligned with that high school and beyond plan. So this flow chart that I have listed here is referenced in the Center for Change in Transitional Services, which is basically like a think tank attachment of Seattle University. They receive data and give out examples and help educators try to understand about transitions, the 18 to 21 and, well, 16, actually really 16 and beyond. So what you have in those pages, you conduct age-appropriate transition assessments. So you find out a student's vocational strengths, preferences, interests, and needs. So what do they like? What are they into? What do they want to do? You write measurable goals. So, as they relate to their educational training, employment, independent living as needed. You identify transitional services, what specially designed instruction are going to be required with that, what related services will be needed if a student requires speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, those kinds of things have to be identified in these pages. Community experiences, what volunteer hours or work does this individual done or has done out in the community, and employment and living skills. Things like mock interviews or cooking, cleaning, those kinds of things. Are those needed? Those are identified here in these pages. Then you write a course of study. Again, how is this individual meeting these core requirements that they have throughout high school? Again, like they said, these pages are in there when they're 16, so 9th or 10th grade. So you're writing out the list of like, okay, if their high school and beyond plan is saying this year, this of course is also annually reviewed, just like their high school and beyond plan, so is their IEP. So those can change and update, but what is the pathway? What's the course of study that we want to say? So 9th through 12th grade, those courses are identified in these pages. And then, of course, we write annual IEP goals. In this case, there's talking specifically about annual transitional goals. So that individual is planning on joining the military and is able to, then that's possible that they could have a transitional goal related to passing that ASVAB and being on that pathway. And then, of course, you coordinate with adult agencies and services. These are DDA, DVR, this is the Developmental Vocational Rehabilitation Agency. These are government agencies that provide funding and things like that for individuals to get services such as job coaching, out on jobs in their adult life. The DDA, Developmental Disabilities Agency Administration, which could provide funds and funding. So having those people at the meeting, those kinds of things are very important. And if you invited them or identified, that's also in those pages. Next slide, thank you. So graduation plans and grading practices for students with special services. Note that the first bullet and the last bullet on both of these are exactly the same. They specify directed by the IEP team. It's extremely important. This is a team collaborative effort. It's not made by any one individual. It's by an IEP team. And depending on their high school and beyond plan and transition pages, they may continue till age 21 or graduate with their same age peers, aged peers. Kevin's Law is available if they are staying. So that's in both, whether you are standard-based grading or IEP determined. These are the differences. So again, and this is very variable because again, it's an individualized education program. I can only give you really generalities, right? I can't really say specifically this person does this. Well, that won't necessarily apply to the next person. Likely students, so for standard-based grading, this is likely students graded in their core courses similarly to their age equivalent peers. So at secondary level, that's letter grades. At the elementary and or middle school level, they use numbers. So that's the grading practices. Likely students as following the same 3 steps towards graduation as their same age peers, with accommodations, modifications, and SDI supports to guarantee a FAPE. And for IEP determined, likely a student is graded based on their IEP goals and objectives. So this may include pass-fail grades given in their core subject areas. At the high school, we use satisfactory or unsatisfactory on their graded transcripts. And then students has or will participate in a high school and beyond plan, and that information has or will be used in their transition pages of the IEP. In limited circumstances, students may be provided graduation credit that align with the student's high school and beyond plan, but differ from the graduation requirements of their same aged peers. Okay, so that's the difference. Next slide. Do I have any questions?
I do.
Yes.
So with the IEP transition pages, who is writing that and how collaborative is that with gen ed teachers? Like, what does that actually look like for the student? And do they have access to that? They can see that? And then relatedly, what determines if a student is doing the standard-based grading or the IEP determined plan? Like, how do the kids get sorted?
Yeah, absolutely. These are excellent questions. Like I said, that's directed by the IEP team. The IEP team consists of the parent, the student, if appropriate. At the high school, it should be appropriate depending on the disability. The special education teachers or teachers, general education teachers, an LEA representative, which is the local educational agency, in this case, North Mason High School. Oftentimes that person is an administrator, but it could be a school psychologist or another special education teacher. However, it's very important that the LEA representative is kind of like the mediator, the person there that is, knows and understands, where the district can go as far as providing services and what is allowed. And then so that's all collaborative right there. And so you have your general education teachers, and of course, if there's any other adult agencies provided that are invited, by the way, they have to be invited by the individual or the parents, of course. And those agencies can be invited as well. And that is the team that determines how the student will be graded. Like, are they standard-based grading?
Is that when they're, the year they turn 16? Or?
No, it's every IEP.
Oh,
Every
okay.
single year when those are annually reviewed. And what I'm talking about here too are specific to those individuals that qualify for services under IDEA. My colleagues and principals here are gonna talk to you about the plans here coming up later in the board meeting. And you're gonna see individuals separated in some of their statistics that are IEP students versus 504 students. 504 is a civil rights statute, and that requires that for schools cannot discriminate based off of a disability. So what a 504 plan does in an education setting is provides accommodations and supports to level the playing field for individuals with disabilities. IDEA, anybody that qualifies for an IEP already has a 504 in their accommodations and modifications part of it. You need 3 things to qualify for an IDEA. You have to have a categorized disability. The secondary level, there are 13 of them. Elementary, there are 14. That disability has to severely impact your ability to access the general education curriculum, and that requires specially designed instruction in order to, for that individual to access. If you have 2 of those things, that may be a 504 plan. You
So
have to have
who-
3.
Who is writing the IEP transition pages? Did you answer that?
Yes, it's the team.
The whole team,
The
they
whole
write
team.
different pieces of that?
Depending on the case manager, so we're going into case management, depending on the disability, you may have likely a case manager is gonna be a special education teacher. And those people will physically write out a draft and then modify it based off of the team decision. The draft is not complete when the team meets. So everything that's written in an IEP
Okay.
is created by the team. If the individual qualifies for speech therapy, only that case manager might be a speech pathologist. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Are there any other questions?
What would be the
Okay.
ideal question you'd like to be asked about your program?
I didn't specify much about my program specifically, so I teach 18 to 21-year-olds. So again, the post area. What I was specifically talking about is individuals within transition, so 16 years and up. But these are high school students. In my program, I am post-high school. So again, these are likely individuals that participated in Kevin's Law. They did 4 years of high school, they met their graduation requirements, and they are now really more learning those independent living skills, job skills, community safety and transportation skills, and we're moving them towards working, being their best selves, really.
Do you find that the general program is sufficiently well-funded? Or are there particular areas where you see the need for more state support?
I believe that in public education, you can always nitpick and find areas in which you'll need more funding. But, how can you go out and get that stuff? It's like, it's gonna take that, we were very fortunate at North Mason to have a killer special education team at the secondary level. You guys are they're on it. You got a great team at the high school. I'm essentially the team at the alternative setting, but there's more. So it's phenomenal. We'll make it happen.
Oh, really good answer.
How do you feel like this, in talking about the graduation requirements and what is being asked of our students, how do you feel, like, knowing, especially since you are with the 18 to 21-year-olds, how has this benefited them? Like, specific, like, you don't have to go into specifics, but anecdotally, have you seen this really benefit your students?
Absolutely. I've seen students go out and get jobs. I've seen students get connected with services. Just a couple of weeks ago, I had those that were able come in. I've got collaborations with community members. So Chief Bo Bakken from North Mason Fire, Central Fire District shares this location with North Mason Fire, and they like to come in and do, we co-teach and we co-collaborate. We let them know, like, beyond high school and beyond, in your adulthood, this is how you can find, this is who you can talk to. He came in and taught them CPR, first aid, and those that were able were certified. Those that were not able, that may be like wheelchair bound, got what I call a safety bystander certificate. So they were able to see and recognize the signs of somebody going down, and some of my students are nonverbal in that sense, but they can make noises. So they're now certified to recognize those and be able to, like, yell out for help to get somebody to come over and do CPR. So I have great relationships with businesses out in the community that we're able to go out and produce volunteer hours and give a student real life experience out in the community of what it is and what it looks like to have a job, to hold a job, to be a responsible individual. And that's really what we're trying to do in the post-secondary setting of, like, okay, you've graduated high school, now it's time to, how do you live your life without being on a couch the whole time, if you're able. Most importantly, this presentation was entitled, exceptional, how we graduate the exceptional individuals, right? Language is extremely important. We don't diss on abilities here. So,
Thank you, Garrett.
Thank you.
Very impressive presentation. If you were an attorney and I needed one, I'd hire you in a minute.
We are now at superintendent update with the budget status report.
Well, good evening, board, and welcome new members to our board, our student members. Hi, I am Dan King, the Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations in North Mason, and every month I give a budget status report. So we're going to begin with the status of our 4 other funds, that is those funds that are not the general fund. Beginning with the Capital Projects Fund, the budget status at the end of September, the ending fund balance was $296,753. Our debt service fund balance at the end of September was $1,846,017. In our ASB fund, we ended the month with $473,036. And in our transportation vehicle fund, we ended September with $332,155 in the fund balance. On the next slide, we have our attendance through October. Actually, this is our attendance reflected on the October 1 count. So we can see here September and October side by side. Our budgeted FTE for 23-24 is 2,322 students. You can see in September our count was for FTE was 2,189.21, and our end count in October was 2,284.46. So that's an increase of 95 students. Now this is our K-12 FTE. Our TTK FTE is counted separately. We have 31 students in our TTK program in our October account. In September we had 28, so it was an increase of 3 students there. Our total FTE when we count our K-12 and TT together is 2,315.46 students. So let's go ahead and move on to the general fund. So our general fund is our main fund where most of our revenues and expenditures are occurring. And we're going to begin with revenues. So, and this is through September 30th, our first month of the fiscal year. So our total revenue percentage year-to-date was 7.44%. So we had received 7.44% of our total revenues, and we had projected we would have received 6.95, so a little bit higher than what we projected. Our local source revenues, we had collected 2.08% compared to the 2.17% we projected. For state sources, we were at 8.37%, and we had projected we'd be at 8.42%. And from federal sources, we were at 5.59% at the end of September, and we projected 0.56%. So we were way ahead in collecting federal this year, compared to last year too, if you remember.
Yeah.
We were behind, we started off the year behind.
Yeah.
So our apportionment for the month of September was $2,177,573. I'm not going to go through that whole list there, but all of those top 10 revenue sources equate to $3,151,000, which was almost 100% of our revenues. On the next slide, just a comparison, you can see our budget for fiscal year 23-24. We have $42,395,487 budgeted for the year, and that's that tall blue bar there for comparison. And you'll see these next two bars growing as we go through the fiscal year. The next one over, the middle one is our projected year-to-date revenues, and then the purple one is our current year-to-date for comparison. So our projected year-to-date general fund revenues, we projected we'd be at $2,946,633. And we did have more revenues than we projected. We have $3,152,498 in revenues through September, which is $205,865 more than what we had projected. Let's go on to the next slide. We're just going to use these as visuals right now for comparison, and as we go through the year, we might, go deeper on these and talk more about them. But you can see here in millions of dollars on the left side bar, comparing our projected revenues compared to our current in local, state, and federal sources. And let's go on to the next slide, which is our expenditures. So the top left one, that radio dial there on the left, is a pretty important one. That's our that shows our status with our projected year-end balance as a percentage of our budgeted expenditures. That amount, that percentage, by policy, by our board policy, should be between 8 and 10%. So in the month of September, it's showing that our projected year-end balance as a percent of our expenditures was 9.63%. So we're right in there. Our total actual expenditures year-to-date, 8.52%, and we have projected we'd be at 8.32%. Our salaries and benefits actual, 7.34% compared to 7.9% projected, or 7.96%. And then our basic ed actual was 8.33% compared to the 9.06% projected. So our actuals are pretty close to what we had budgeted and projected in both our revenue side and in our expenditure side, with the exception of the federal revenues were a lot higher than what we had projected. Top 10 expenditures you can just glance at there. Of course, basic education is really the main one where we're spending our funds, using our resources, and so on. Let's go on to the next slide, please. Again, a visual. This shows our budgeted expenditures for the year 23-24 at $42,495,683. And then our projected versus current. We projected our general fund expenditures would be at $3,569,387. And we did spend a little bit more than we projected. We spent $3,653,488, which was $84,000 more than we had projected. Going on to the next slide. This shows our expenditures by object projected year-to-date versus current year-to-date. Again, you can see, the comparisons in these different objects, salaries for certificated and classified staff, benefits, supplies, and purchase services. We're a little under the projected in each of these objects, except you can see the purchase services where there's that difference there. And we've talked about this before with, sometimes we're using our purchase services towards contracting with service providers, for example, speech therapists or school psychologists, those kinds of things that are not, those kinds of roles in our staff that are contracted rather than employees of our district. Expenditures by object. So you can now compare the previous, this year compared to the previous 3 years, visually to see trends in our salaries for certificated, classified, our benefits, supplies, and purchase services. And then let's go on to the next slide. So this one here, this is an important one. This shows our month-end fund balances across the year. And in August there, that is our 22-23 year-end fund balance and our 23-24 beginning fund balance. Because on August 31st to September 1st, that's where we transition from one fiscal year to the other. And that amount was $4,509,811. Now, our September month-end fund balance was $4,008,820. You can see that based on the current data, it's showing the trend in that solid line across the year to this coming August. And that is we're gonna see that change each month because that's a projection. So every month forward is a projection. And it shows that our anticipated or projected August year-end fund balance being at $3,783,873. And that's what we budgeted for. So far we're on track. Let's move on to the final page. And here, this is just showing us our general fund summary, comparing this year to last year, with this year on the right, our current year-to-date expenditures, our current year-to-date revenues on top, expenditures below. You can compare the amounts. So if you look where it says prior year-to-date revenues, at the end of last September, our revenues were $2,653,700, and you can compare it to this past September, just last month, $3,152,498. You can compare the revenues there as well. The expenditures at the bottom, $3,076,862 compared to this year, $3,653,488 through September. You can compare the percentages. So our year-to-date percentage at the end of September, we were at 6.60% for revenues. And at the end of this past September, 7.44%. And with the expenditures, last year at this time, we were at 7.77%, and this year, 8.6%. You can see the ending fund balances summarized there. A year ago, our ending fund balance was $3,681,218 at the end of September, and this year, $4,008,820. So with that, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Dan. No, I do not. Any questions?
Nope.
Good job. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Teaching and learning update.
Yeah, we have a really exciting part of the meeting tonight. As we talked about last month, this year we're addressing our district and building goals separately by dividing them into sections to talk about each month. And last month we talked about our goals around attendance for students. This month we're talking about our academic goals. So we have the bulk of our instructional leadership team here to talk to you about both the district goals and individual building goals. And we're going to turn it off starting with Kyle Ellis, Director of Teaching and Learning. And as everybody else joins in, they will introduce themselves.
Thank you.
Good evening, board members. So like Dana said, I'm Kyle Ellis, Director of Curriculum Instruction. And I want to kick it off today by starting, and I know Dana has shared with you a lot of our district goals and a lot of the 100% goals that we have as a district. Today we're going to be covering the academic side of that. And we're actually going to start with our secondary district goals. And as you can see right there, we have those big 100% goals of 7th grade students, SBA level 3 or 4 in ELA and math, 9th grade students, 100% on track with 0% failures in core classes. We have a 100% goal of graduation rate, 85% on time, and 100% of our graduates complete CTE pathways. Currently at North Mason, so this is data from last school year. In 7th grade, we had 37% meet standard in math on SBA and 32.8% meet standard in ELA on SBA. In 9th grade currently we have 60% of our students passing all core content classes, so that is currently right now. That's data that Chris Turner, our Director of Systems and Supports, is pulling. And looking at last year's data as well for graduation rate, we had a pretty strong graduation rate, 81% on time, and then 88.5% total graduation. So this is data that we pulled from OSPI report card. So from the district level, we have some action steps that we are taking. These are going to look very similar when you look at secondary and elementary because we want to align our focuses. So we really want a focused district-directed professional development time, priority standards for each content area, common formative assessments that align with priority standards, and a GLAD and AVID focus. So everything you're going to, that hopefully our teachers are bringing back to from our district-directed PD time aligns with a lot of this that you see right in front of you. First off, Lexi Hatfield, she could not be here tonight. She's at a CT advisory meeting. So I'll just present what she has for academic goals. As you know, she presented last month to you. She's the ALE Principal CTE Director. Up in front of you right now, you have the James Taylor and HomeLink demographics. This was pulled from the OSPI report card. This is the 22-23 data. 66 enrollment at James Taylor and 81 enrollment at HomeLink. And she told me today that those numbers are a little bit up for James Taylor right now as well. 26% special education at James Taylor, 5.2% special education at HomeLink. And I don't need to, I think everybody can read the rest of those percentages up there, but I just wanted to give you a picture of the demographics at James Taylor and HomeLink. So what she has in ALE, as we know, is a little bit different always than our comprehensive high school. So her team's large goal this year is that all students will earn a minimum of 6 credits per year, and that goes with both HomeLink and James Taylor. That's both of those programs' goals, and she's going to be. Her team's going to be doing this with a really big focus on project-based learning. Up there you see a list of the courses that are already offered for project-based learning with art, engineering, with robotics, 3D design, digital photography, neuroscience, and an algebra/art PBL course. They're looking to offer future courses of geometry, art PBL course, a physical science PBL course, and as you probably already know, that evening courses are now offered 4 days a week. For students that may be working in the morning or do it in just a different setting for students to be able to collect those credits to graduate. And she just recently informed me that there's an application that she has out for a mastery-based learning cohort that it could be up to $130,000 for training and implementation. So she's looking at other ways to really support CTE and also so CTE throughout the district, but also those courses at James Taylor and HomeLink. And on the next slide, this is a picture from the STEM robotics room and some students that are doing some great work over there in the STEM room for James Taylor. First up, and so we're going to go, usually, sometimes when we do these presentations, you start with kinder and work your way up. We're actually going to work our way starting at the high school. So I want to introduce to you Chad Collins from North Mason High School.
Thank you, Kyle. Good evening, board.
Good evening.
So I'm here to present our high school academic goals. Mirroring Kyle's presentation of the district and ALE, here's our enrollment and our demographic breakdown. SPED, ML. Nice. To our goals, I was told I had 2 minutes. Go back to our goals. So our goals. ELA, English Language Arts and Math. We're not happy with the state numbers, with our numbers, or the state numbers. The state shouldn't be happy with their numbers. There's like 15 different metrics. Only one of them's over 50%. With that being said, we have a goal of increasing our current numbers by 10% this year, with their overarching goal of, like Kyle mentioned, of 100% eventually. We plan on doing that by continuing to focus on AVID, going AVID building wide in our school. Every one of our students has an AVID binder. We do binder checks at school to keeping them organized. They're learning steady skills, how to stay organized. We have staff that are trained in AVID doing instructional strategy demonstrations at our staff meetings on showing what's working in their classroom, so learning from the experts in our building. When you walk into a classroom, a big AVID push is you should have an essential question posted on your board, so anyone walking in that classroom should know what students are learning that day. Formative assessments, the SBAC interims, ELAs using those, and then common assessments where we don't have SBAC interims, temperature checks throughout the trimester. That'll guide their next instructional move is another thing we push for. So you're not just teaching and then do a test at the end of the term and see if a kid passed or failed. So temperature checks along the way. We have some tier 2 supports for kiddos that need to look at things in a different way. It didn't work the first time, for example, in geometry or algebra. We have applied geometry this year. We have math skills. Bridge to College was mentioned in Garrett's program presentation, intensified algebra. So we have some ways of having students do something different. It didn't work the second time. Let's try something different. And that leads us to our pathways. You've heard a lot about CTE pathways. You heard it last month. You've heard it tonight. A frustration with mine are the SBAC, ELA, and math. That's a snapshot. That's a snapshot of that day for those students. And if they rock it, great. But if they don't, there's other ways to graduate now to meet the graduation requirement, and that enters the pathways. And we've been working really hard on developing these. We have marketing. Core Plus Maritime is a growing program, essentially boat building, partnering with Safe Boats. They're actually up at our advisory meeting tonight representing Safe Boats and working with our teacher. Visual arts, food service. Our culinary program is growing. They catered and were recognized from a United Way meeting last month. They came to a meeting we had this month and thanked us, thanked our students. Animal science and health science. Here's a couple pictures of some of those programs. That skeleton. I can't pronounce this word very well, but it's called an entomology table. Entomology table. It's a 3D dissection table we have now in our health science class, and it's virtual. It simulates a fresh cadaver dissection. You should stop by sometime. We can show it to you. It's pretty amazing. You can do cross sections of the human body.
That's amazing.
We have culinary. Culinary, they actually cater the CTE advisory dinner that I just left up in the Commons tonight. Chicken wings and homemade pizza. Boat building, growing class. Kids love it. They just absolutely love that class. And then horticulture. So for these pathways to get them across the stage at graduation, another frustration is they still have to attempt the SBAC, even if in ELA and math, even if they know they're going to struggle. So they have to go through that until we can get them to these points and get them across the stage. And we're just going to continue to grow these programs that we know kids want, and it'll give them great skills once they leave our halls. Thank you.
Do we want to save questions at the end of all the presentations?
It's up to you. That makes sense for you, Chad, or do you want to take questions now? We'll save them for the
Yeah,
end.
we'll save them.
What happens to the boat?
Not a real question.
I would like to go, I told our teacher, I'd like to go over to Lake Devereaux and do a float test, but I don't think risk management would go for that.
We'll have to ask them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good evening, board. I'm Robert Callahan, principal at Hawkins Middle School. So at Hawkins Middle School, we have about 480 students. 32% of our students are of Hispanic heritage, which is pretty significant. 16% of our students are in our MLL program, and 16% of our students have an IEP. When we start talking about our goals for our school, we start with the whole idea of what's our vision and mission for our schools and our students. What do we want to see? So just to clarify it, our vision, what we want to see is our students feel safe, valued, and nurtured, allowing them to find personal and academic success in an inclusive school community that challenges them to grow into a productive and positive citizen. The mission is how we get there, by providing optimistic and safe learning environment, using quality research-based curriculum that is aligned with state standards, and being responsive to student learning needs through common formative assessments that inform our daily instruction and our interventions. So with that in our mind, we looked at the district's goal of 100% of our students succeeding in math and reading. And we know that currently we're looking at between 30 to 40% of our students passing the yearly state exams. So taking a long view that by 2029, we're looking at getting to 100%, we've graduated our goals for each year from now until then. So by the end of our spring 2024, we're looking at half of our students being able to pass in our reading goal. Trying to get there is really important. And the first thing we need to do is identify what are the standards that we need our kids to know to be able to successfully pass the assessment. So that is deciding on what those priority standards are from the state, because they gave us so many standards to look at, but which ones are the real important ones to focus on and have our students master. And then once we have that, start developing meaningful instruction with the curriculum that we have in the classroom to meet that. Our biggest challenge is with our MLL and our students with IEPs, and in order to support them best, we have sheltered instruction for our most challenged MLL students in the levels 1 and 2, and we have inclusionary practices that will support all of our students with IEPs. Vast majority of our students with IEPs are included in our general ed classes with significant support from their case managers and paras.
What's the current state for this, for reading for Hawkins?
What's that?
What is the current state for?
Where our scores are right now?
Yes.
It depends on the grade level, but it's somewhere between 32 and 40%.
Okay.
Can you say what the MLL stands for?
Multi-language learners. So the new ELL term.
Yeah, I didn't know the exact, but also for people watching too. I
Thank you. Yeah.
always forget.
And then looking at our math goals, our math is similar to our reading, maybe a little bit less. Again, at the low 30s, and so getting to 100% of that is going to take us some time and work. And so we're again looking at trying to get 50% of our kids passing the state balance, the Smarter Balance state assessment by the end of this year. Again, we're looking at what are the important standards for the grade levels for them to work on so that they can master those and be successful on the state exam. And again, focusing on some of our most challenging students. When we're doing inclusionary practices to support our students with IEPs, it actually supports all, because we may have 16% of our students that have IEPs. I can guarantee we have another 16% of students without an IEP that need that same type of modification and adaptation of instruction in the classroom.
Could I ask you, the students who require sheltered instruction, is that pulling them out of the regular classroom and putting them into a separate?
That's a good question. That would be a supplanting of their instruction. Mm-hmm. So that's not good practice. With sheltered instruction, what we're actually doing is taking our our curriculum of, let's say, language arts, and we're adapting it for support of language acquisition as well. So it is a actual language arts class, but specifically designed to support students that are newly learning English.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
And
Thank you.
in our presentation, we have a couple more slides, but I'm assuming that's for another time, the attendance goal and the behavior goal?
I threw all my goals in there, and they said only talk about the academics.
We'll get those on another
Okay,
month.
perfect.
Almost.
So, well, coming up next, we'll have Belfair and Sandhill Elementary at the same time, but I want to go over the district goal for reading. We made a very large district goal, 100%, of course, of our third grade students reading at grade level. And we say third grade students because there is really great data out there. It's actually not great data, but it's data that people use, and there's a really strong correlation with passing and being able to read at grade level in third grade and having success the rest of your schooling. And actually, there's
Staying out of jail.
staying out of jail. Thank you, Dana. There's a really strong correlation right there with being able to read at grade level in third grade. So currently, we use the FastBridge assessment for all students, grades kindergarten through 8th grade. That is one of our screening tool. And 35% of our third graders are reading above the 50th percentile, so at that kind of average rank on the FastBridge reading assessment. And 26.4% of our third graders across the district pass with a level 3 or 4 on the SBA assessment. In math, we don't have a district goal for elementary school, but we also know that we do have district goals throughout the rest of their career in math, and we really want them to, and we do frequently monitor their progress in math as well. So we currently are sitting at 36% of our students above the 50th percentile on the FastBridge math assessment, and 31.4% of our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders met standard on the Smarter Balanced assessment for math. You'll see the next slide is the exact same one that we had for our district action steps. Currently, we are, with our priority standards, since we do have 2 elementary schools, we are having across grade level meetings. So Sandhill and Belfair Elementary are meeting almost monthly to really set those standards and prioritize the standards across the district. And it's really going to start driving our report card work as well. And soon they're also going to be working on those common formative assessments that align with the priority standard work that they're doing. So now I'll introduce.
Could I just ask one question
Oh, yes.
real quick? Can you describe the difference between the FastBridge math assessment and the Smarter Balance?
So the Smarter Balance is done at the very end of the school year. That is the one that's reported to the state. That's the one where we're between 3rd and 8th grade and also 10th graders take an ELA and a math assessment, and that's what you see reported to the state.
Right.
So our FastBridge is our screening tool that we use 3 times a year, and that is our district assessment tool.
Okay.
So yeah, there's the one that you see if you pull up the OSPI report card, that is the Smarter Balance
Okay,
assessment.
thank you.
Yes. And so now I'll introduce Jessica Collins and Jason Swayzer to come up and present our elementary academic goals.
Thanks, Kyle.
Hey guys.
Good evening.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, well, our mascot is the Bobcats. Yay, Bobcats. Good girl. We have 423 students that attend K-5 at Belfair Elementary, but we also have our TK students and our DPS students across the street at our Early Learning Center, and we have 32 TTK and 21 students enrolled in our developmental preschool. We are 18.9% students with IEPs, 17.8% students multi-language learners, 37.9% free and reduced lunch, 10% McKinney-Vento, and 2.7% students with 504s.
And Sandhill, I'm Jason Swayzer, principal at Sandhill. Our mascot is the Cougars. We currently are at 552 kids, and 4 more are starting tomorrow. We are at 17.4 special education students, MLL 23.5, free and reduced 48, and McKinney Vento 11, and our students who need 504s are at 2.8.
We are going to start off with our ELA building goals, and at Belfair Elementary, in partnership with all stakeholders, 100% of our students will make at least a year's growth, which is considered typical on our FastBridge screener that we were just discussing. In early reading or A reading, early reading is what our kindergartners and first graders take, and A reading is our second through fifth grades, as measured by the spring FastBridge data. We have a two-part goal at Belfair Elementary in both math and ELA here. We also are identifying our students that are, the screener that we take in the fall, our FastBridge screener, identifies students of risk or no risk or some risk. We have gone in and identified those kids that are of high or some risk, and we would like them, our goal is that 80% of those students make aggressive growth, which is more than a year's growth. Which would then reflect that we'll go through later and talk about how we're working our tiered systems of support. If those kids are making that aggressive growth in that area, it'll show that our tiered systems of support are working.
And Jessica did a really good job of explaining the details embedded in with that, but we really wanted to make sure that our goals were calibrated, and we worked on those in addition to what the district has set out for our students, to align that to that 100% of our students will be reading at grade level according to our FastBridge data platform. And then within that, even deeper, we work with our teachers to also nest that goal of 100% of their kids will be reading at grade level, which then trickles down to the students who also work on their own individual goals. So we're really aligning that from the top down.
Awesome. So in order to achieve our goals, we develop blueprints with our teams. Our blueprints reflect our commitments to each other, our students, and our families, and our community. And here are some commitments that we've made around instructional work in ELA. To implement our core instruction 5 days a week with fidelity using instructional best practices focused on GLAD and UDL. We're going to collaborate regularly in our PLCs. There's been a big focus on that this year to ensure that we're using the DeFore questions. What do we want all our students to be able to know? That's our focused work on our priority standards. What do they need to know? How will we know they learned it? Making sure that we have assessments that show us their progression within those standards. And how will we respond if some of those students do not grow how we want them to do? That would be reflected in our tiered systems of support. And then how we would extend the learning for those students that are already proficient within those standards. We want to implement WIN, which is what we need, what they need, what I need, 4 days a week to provide targeted small group intervention. And that is our tier 2 and tier 3 supports within our tiered systems of supports. We're going to follow the district assessment calendar for administration and analysis of data. And we're going to supplement our primary phonics instruction with a curriculum called UFly. Okay,
You're up again.
moving on to math building goals. In partnership, ours, again, very similar to our ELA goal, in partnership with all stakeholders, 100% of our students will make at least a year's growth, that typical growth in early math or early math or A math, as measured by our spring FastBridge screener. Also, in partnership with all stakeholders, 80% of our students identified in that high or some risk category will make more than a year's growth, aggressive growth in math, as measured by the FastBridge screener.
And same thing with Sandhill, just some different words, but we want to see that gap closing growth, that aggressive growth for our students who are not meeting standard, and that's over a year. We kind of target that 1.2, 1.15 years of growth, so those students over multiple years can make up a lot of ground with that additional work past 1 year of growth. And let's see, and then those students who are at grade level, we want to see them meet or exceed their projected growth in our FastBridge platform. So when the students take that FastBridge assessment at the beginning of the fall, they get a projected growth with that system for the year. And we make sure we find that number, we know that number, so that we can then calculate aggressive and projected growth for all of our kids. And then some of the steps we're going to take in order to do that is 50 to 60 minutes of grade level core instruction each day. K-5 implementation of what I need time for math. This is a year where we are taking time for our teachers to explore interventions and work on that math win system, so that during the PLC time with those 4 essential questions, they will be able to dive into data every week and be able to look at math and ELA data, looking at what their kids need and move their students to the areas that they need the most help. It's going to take us a little bit to get the math rolling. We have an ELA solidified, efficient system, and now we're bringing in math so that hopefully we will have 2 running intervention systems embedded in our master schedule. Okay, and then some pictures.
Thank you, guys.
Could I just ask
Yes.
one
Yeah.
more question? I'm stuck on the FastBridge because it seems like that is the tool that you're using to measure progress throughout the school year. How is that aligned to the state assessment, or is it?
That's a good question, because honestly, it's a skills-based assessment, so it truly tracks skills in students, where the SBA is more standards-based. So that's a really good question. But what we do see is that it correlates well to our, so if a specific grade level is at a level, a percentage, it correlates to SBA.
It does?
But it does assess skills.
And the work we did with aligning our priority standards at the elementary level, understanding what the standard is that the kids need at the grade level, and then identifying that the skills they need to get there, is what FastBridge kind of breaks down for us.
Okay.
Kind of more detailed.
It
For-
sounds like a better assessment than the state.
It's more useful
It's
for us.
useful because
It
they
guides
can use it to
instruction.
You can- yeah, you
continuously
can-
progress monitor
Right.
students and make adjustments.
Okay.
Jessica, I'm wondering, because you mentioned, the developmental preschool and TTK, are they, actually, one question I had looking through this is, I'm curious, sort of unrelated to this, if the enrollment, particularly for TTK, has impacted K enrollment, like if you've seen that?
We've seen an increase in enrollment due to our TTK program,
More people are going to kindergarten, more kids are going to kindergarten.
ready for kindergarten or
Okay.
entering kindergarten.
Entering, like, I'm
Entering?
wondering if you're
Yeah.
seeing a shift
would-
in enrollment, like,
We did start this year with four sections, which last year we started with third, so that could be
Okay.
a reflection of that. I would have to say, it's not the question you asked, but our kids are prepared.
yeah, that's
We are
one step
seeing a
there.
huge difference in our students that have been through our TTK program and where they are falling as compared to their peers that did not attend this.
That's exciting for me, but
Very
also, I'm curious also, when you're with your goals and 100% of students, do you mean the TTK and developmental students too? Are they assessed?
That's a great question. They do not use the FastBridge assessment.
Right, okay.
We are working through creating, they're just a different beast per se.
Right.
They don't have report cards. They use WAKIDS data, and they use different assessment tools. And we're currently building a system in that realm for commitments, for tiered systems of support, all those things. So we're not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
They have their own individual goals.
Okay.
But that is our hope. Our hope is that it's then reflected in these goals.
Right.
We're not there yet.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys. So, Kyle, are you guys prepared for any more questions from the board for any of the?
Sure. If there's any more questions.
Well, I do have one.
Yeah.
I'm really invested in the AVID program. I've seen it in the middle school and the high school and how well those students respond to that program. Is that something that you intend to initiate at the elementary level as well?
So I would say we would love to initiate like some of the strategies and really start looking at how our GLAD, the Guided Language Acquisition Design model, and AVID actually have some pieces that can kind of cross over, knowing that we can take some high leverage AVID strategies and start using them down in our 4th and 5th grade especially. And so that is something that we definitely want to explore.
That, I would really support that. I feel like coming into the 6th grade and having a notebook put in front of you, or the 7th grade, or whenever you started in the middle school, if they had that kind of experience in the 5th and 6th grade, it would not be a big surprise. And I think the organizational feature of those notebooks is really excellent. And we're not seeing a lot of students who haven't been exposed to AVID with those same strategies.
Right, and I would say, and yes, and definitely conversations have happened with the building leaders. The conversations have started of what can we start doing at the elementary level?
Great.
And how does that align
Great.
with the practice that we're already using with the GLAD strategies? And I really do think that we take some of those high leverage AVID pieces and really start embedding them in our elementary as well.
Oh, I think that's wonderful. You have my total support for that.
Yeah.
The
And
younger, the better.
Yes. To kind of go with what you were asking about the TTK, and so we are actually now kind of monitoring our students that have been through TTK in the last couple of years and seeing how they're performing on our Fast Bridge assessment. And I would love to come back and kind of share out kind of the impact that we are now seeing, because we have some pretty cool graphs that we actually just started working on today to show that impact of that program.
That's fascinating.
As we're getting into
That'd be
kindergarten and
cool.
1st grade, yeah.
I had a question for Chad, maybe, for looking at the goals and the strategies for North Mason High. I guess I would frame my question as what is different compared to like last year? Like, what are we doing different this year? You shared a lot of great strategies and like the CTE pathways and supports. What is really being tweaked, or what's being changed this year?
We're continuing the path.
Okay.
You know, we've been on this AVID pathway. This is our 4th year, continuing to get more and more staff trained. We sent a new cohort to San Diego in end of June, 1st of July last summer, and we'll do that again. We have at least 2 to 3 members of every department AVID trained, and we want to continue to grow that. It's our feeling that if we continue this path and continue implementing these strategies, that
You'll see the
growth in
SBA
students.
rates grow. Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions?
What
Emily.
grade does AVID start in the middle school right now?
6th grade. AVID in the middle school, 6th grade.
7th grade.
7th grade, sorry,
Yeah.
okay.
We do bring in some instructional supports with our 6th graders through the early classes, but it's not directly.
It's not like a direct class until 7th grade, okay.
Emily, Aaron, do you guys have any other like thoughts or observations having?
Mine
been
was
through?
just a comment. I was the first AVID class in the middle school, my 7th grade, with Miss Brewer. So I've been with AVID in the AVID classes since 7th grade, and I've definitely seen an impact in my education.
That's
Great to hear.
That's good to hear.
So there you have it. It needs to be in the elementary school. Put it down there.
All right.
Thank
excellent.
you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Item 3, we talked about with leadership, and since we are in a place of transition with some changing board members, but also most importantly because it's so important that we have a discussion and a rich partnership with our tribal leaders if we're going to use language in a land acknowledgement, that we have not completed the circle of that conversation with the tribal leaders yet. So I would just say that we'd like to table the discussion about making a regular land acknowledgement during our board meetings until we have the opportunity to complete that conversation.
Yes, thank you for that update. All right, we are at our monitoring reports. This is a portion of our evening where we review our written sets of policies, our ends, executive requirements, and other governance policies and processes. We have a monitoring report included in today's packet related to mandatory policies. Thank you all. And I would entertain a motion related to ER 13 mandatory policies on whether or not we find the superintendent's performance to comply with ER 13.
I move that we find the superintendent's performance to comply with ER 13 mandatory policies.
Any discussion?
Simple matter for decision.
All right. I will call for a vote. All in favor say aye. Student board members first.
Aye.
And regular board members?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Policy review, this is our chance to discuss, propose, or make any revisions to our policies that we reviewed last month. ER 6, the facilities and the facilities plan, and ER 7 related to asset protection. Is there any other discussion related to those policies? Great. We're at the adjournment portion of our evening. Yeah?
did miss the upcoming board life
Oh, I don't have it on mine. Oh, okay, it was after tribal land acknowledgement. Eric, you have the October. John, you have November, and Leanna, you have December.
Yes, what do you think would be a good topic?
Maybe like a goodbye letter. It will be your last
Well, I can
one.
manage that. Is there anything particularly that needs stressing? So that'd be timely.
You know, based on some of the things you heard tonight, John, it might be very interesting to talk to Kyle about that data he's collecting about the impact of TTK on student preparedness for kindergarten, because that is work that we've undertaken since you've been on the board. And that would be a really cool thing to share with the community, that we are seeing the powerful impact of that. And that's a reason for us to want to expand preschool offerings throughout the district and the community as we move forward.
I will go out with a eulogy and a boost.
Thank you, John.
Kyle, could I see you just a little bit after we make contact? Thank you.
Well, we're at the good of the order. I will start on this end tonight, Dana. Do
Yeah.
anything for the good of the order?
Well, I kind of already shared my excitement about our new scholarship and college entrance programs for students. I just am so excited about how powerful that is going to be. I'm also, we're in the process of working with the Economic Development Council. We were part of a large group of people writing a big federal grant. And we are hopeful that, as we talked about CTE programs and enhancing those tonight, that if the Mason County group receives that grant, our portion of that grant will be multiple year funding for the startup of a new CTE pathway on fish, aquaculture, and conservation in the fish of salmon. Particularly, we would be mirroring a successful program that's happening at SAMI with net pens, and building a program in partnership with about 15 agencies throughout from state and community agencies and tribal agencies. The program would be housed at the Port of Grapeview, and we have partners including the Squaxin, for who that is land, traditional lands for, who are really excited about being part of helping us build a program that would be another set of pathways for our graduates, and that we would even be able to share opportunities with other high school students in Mason County to participate in our CTE program there. So those are things we're really excited about.
Excellent. Laura?
Well, I'd like to welcome our new board members. Thank you for volunteering. The pay is really good. But I'm glad you were interested in, and that you can glean from this particular entity how you may take it back to your high school and pass on some information and bring us their information and their recommendations. I'm always interested in knowing what the students think and how they would like to have their situations improve. So those are common things that I'm always concerned about. But primarily, I really like to see student interest in government. So I'm pleased that you have joined us. So thank you.
So I'll make a comment on kind of coaching this season for middle school ball. I have been extremely impressed with comments that have been coming back from other teams that we've been playing of the sportsmanship of our programs, and really coming back and making comments of our student athletes that are being great sportsmen and gracious people on the field, talking up the other team during a game, after the game, and it's just wonderful to see that from our students in multiple sports out there. It's just been a joy to watch. So.
That's great. I don't have much. We've been really enjoying our son's experience in the TTK program, and it's exciting to be a part of things and to be in the classroom a little bit. I've had a chance to be in there, and it's just so fun to see that love of learning spark in these little guys. So that's all I have.
Well, I also wanted to say welcome. And my only expectation when we get new people is just to say that this is a really good opportunity and have a good time with it. And get the most out of it by asking questions. If you feel like you could get more out of it or whatever, let us know. And I think we're all different in personality. So asking the same question 5 times is not stupid questions. So, and then listening to the 504 plan and all that, my son borders on the 504 plan right now, and he's dealing with some stuff. And I can say from last year to this year, just with psychology and all the things that we deal with, my son has OCD with some pretty deep things there, and it comes from a lot of people in our family. But it's really cool because he's learning how to learn about it in a more treasure hunt kind of way instead of a depressing way. So that's really fun. But I can say this year's a lot better than last year. He's in 8th grade now. So he's looking forward to high school, but he knows he's going to be starting as the new kid in high school again. So we're working on those challenges with therapy and stuff like that, and I think it's going to be fun. So, and then I know this isn't school, and it's not even Belfair, but downtown Port Orchard tomorrow night at 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock is our first annual art hop, and we tend to when we invite artists downtown, but to this one, my focus and other people's focus is having people come that don't have shop fronts like I do and other people, but I have 2 artists coming, one Brandon Stewart and Tawny Cowan, and they'll be coming, and it's all different kinds from singing all the way to physical art and production art and everything all downtown. You can walk around and it's all free for these people to come and sit. So in the future, for the next one, if anybody wants to come, there's no age limit. You can come and sell your art even, and you don't have to pay a fee as a vendor like usually any place would do. So 3 to 7 p.m. tomorrow night. All right, that's me.
Go ahead, John.
Well, friends, I'll be here next month, so far as I know. Well, I just wanted to say that this is a commendation to Dana and also to her leadership team. I've been very impressed by all our presentations this evening and by the depth of knowledge and articulateness of every single presenter. And in the course of this evening, it has become clear to me that everyone that was speaking has some goal. They're going somewhere. They're not just teaching a subject, they're not just administering an area, they're not just marching in a parade ground, they're heading out to a specific objective. And it seems to me that that's an approach to education. I would be pleasantly surprised to discover how pedestrian my comments are and how they apply to every school in the state. I rather doubt that. And I tend to think that what I've seen this evening is exceptional. And I really appreciate the dedication that each of our teachers have to focusing on certain specific objectives. It is, after all, our only hope for the Republic, and everything that you folks do as a vocation is vitally important for our culture and for our kids and for this district, and I'm mightily impressed. And I would just like to say, as a little aside to our newcomers, this is a school of government. And though there's no board class, pun intended, there's no board class, the involvement that you can have, what you can learn in getting involved with the legislation that keeps this place going will be an education that will stay with you for the rest of your life and will at least be equal to what you learn in American government. So I wish you all the best.
Thank you, John. All right, board self-assessment, unless you guys would like to make any additional comments. We usually have your comments at the beginning of the meeting. But if there's anything that's popped in your head as we've gone on.
Just saying that most of what all of the teachers had said I have had or have dealt with within my education here at North Mason, and that them trying to help each and every student with what I have or have not gone through is amazing, and love that their outreach is impacting more students.
That's great to hear. Thank you, Emily. Anything?
Thank you.
Good.
Go ahead, Erin, can you top that?
Hearing the presentation about the students with IEPs, I've had an IEP since I've started in this district, and just seeing the support and the programs that are set up for fellow students who also struggle with learning disabilities, physical disabilities is incredible to see.
Wow,
great.
thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you
Yeah,
both.
definitely, thank you.
Board self-assessment.
All right. Well, let's see if my reading with my blood sugar and everything is up to grade level here. So I'm going to read through it, not one by one, just all the way through, and we'll go from there. All right. The agenda was planned to focus on the real work of the board. The board followed its agenda and did not allow itself to get sidetracked. Board members prepared for and contributed to the meeting. The meeting proceeded without interruptions or distractions. The board's deliberations and decision-making processes were public. Participation was balanced. All participated, no one dominated. Members listened attentively, avoiding side conversations. Work was conducted at an atmosphere of trust and openness, and meeting participants treated each other with respect and courtesy. And I mark us all satisfactory all the way down for those. And the second part of this here, board actions occur at the policy level rather than at the operational level. The board reviews policy about each topic before discussing the issue. In writing additional policies, the board starts with a broad statement and becomes more detailed in a logical and disciplined sequence. And we did not write additional policies here, but when we do. The board minimizes time spent monitoring past performance. The board routinely dedicates time to reviewing, improving its own process. The board clarifies priorities and values when considering potential outcomes, beneficiaries, and costs of outcomes. And the board follows an annual calendar based on a plan for doing its work. The board chair helps the board efficiently conduct its meeting. The board spends most of its time deliberating issues, defining and clarifying its vision, and linking with its community, as opposed to fixing things. And the board supports the superintendent in any reasonable interpretation of its policies. And all except for the NA of the additional writing policies, yes, we are satisfactory. And then overall, I'm marking as satisfactory, and all 5 of us were in attendance tonight.
Thank you, Anna. We have Resolution 6023 before us. This is related to the fact that every November we have the Washington State School Directors Conference that we're invited to. And yet November is also when election is, and we have often had new board members coming on. And so in the event where we know with reasonable doubt that someone's going to be on the board, we invite them to attend that conference. So this new resolution is before us. Do I hear a motion to adopt resolution number 6G23? Should I read it out loud? Okay. Whereas school directors are elected before but take office after the annual conference of the Washington State School Directors Association, and whereas it is the advantage of the district to have its directors and directors-elect attend the workshops and orientation programs at the conference and to exchange ideas with school directors from elsewhere in the state, therefore be it resolved that those persons newly elected or appointed who have not yet been sworn in to the North Mason School Board of Directors be designated to attend the annual conference of the Washington State School Directors Association to be held November 16, 18, 2023 as representatives of the district. Expenses of the representatives shall be paid by the district in amounts and in the manner permitted by the law, and the directors and representatives shall make a conference report to the board at the first regularly scheduled meeting of the board in January. Any discussion? Or actually, we need a motion and then a discussion.
Madam Chairman, I move that we adopt Resolution 6G23 regarding new members and new board members, enabling, the gist of which is enable them to go to the annual conference.
Any discussion? I would just say that, especially the first year that I went, I met so many people in this position of they had just won an election, but they were not yet sworn in, and they appreciated their district sending them to these conferences and to be able to take the, just the like board boot camp and like the Public Records Act and some of the really sort of basic courses that are offered there. Was really beneficial across all political spectrums that I saw, and I've also benefited from that. So that's my only point.
It sounds like a really good, this seems so obvious. Why didn't we do it before? You know?
Yep.
I don't think we came across the need for it, did we? That time? I think
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. If there's no further discussion, All in favor signify by saying aye, and we'll start with the student board members,
Aye.
and then the school board members.
Aye.
Motion carries. Back to the agenda, I got away from the agenda. Yes, discussion on our school board meeting date change. Next month is already going to be an irregular meeting date because of conference. So we're, as a reminder, we're meeting Tuesday, the 14th. But, one of our pending upcoming school board members has a conflict on the third Thursday of the month. So there is, we're opening the floor for a discussion about whether moving this meeting to the second Thursday of the month or any other suggested ideas would be palatable. I'm opening the floor for discussion since we're all in a public meeting and can talk about it. You're good with the second Thursday?
Yep.
I'm good with the,
Second.
whatever's up there, I'm good with whatever, but you wanna move it to this, or you wanna move it to something else?
That is related to next month, which is a Tuesday, but moving forward, the person who has put her name forward for Laura's position, she cannot attend a third Thursday meeting ever because of her
Job
job is-
conflict.
Her
Oh.
job is basically Jackie's job in a different district. So we're talking about moving this meeting to the second Thursdays, starting in January or December.
December.
And I didn't know if you had any conflicts with
No,
your
I
shop.
thought you were gonna do Tuesdays, and I'm like, Tuesdays are so wide open for me, it's great. Thursdays, I drive like a lunatic from Port Orchard and try to battle everything. And I usually leave an hour early and get here as fast as I can. And then if
Well,
there's not a tree down.
do
I
you
can-
want to ask the group to consider a Tuesday change then, since we're making a change, Leanna?
I mean, would it,
I don't know.
I'm,
Yeah, we haven't talked about it, so.
I know
if we
we've
wanna
been,
put
we've
on-
been doing Thursdays forever, but Tuesday,
Yeah.
if we're gonna change this, change it up. Change
Go
it
ahead,
up.
Jackie. Oh, there's a comment.
Oh, that would, we couldn't have him. That would be a problem.
That's right, that's right.
Oh, okay. And does the other Thursday works with him?
The second Thursday,
The
Deidre?
second Thursday? Okay. Yeah. No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm fine with either.
Okay. Do we need to wait till
We'll
November?
take
to
action in November.
Okay. We just wanted to have a chance to talk about it since we never get to talk about things.
Yeah. It's nice we're doing that ahead of time.
Yeah.
For her coming in, so.
Yeah. Again, as I've said, our next board meeting date is Tuesday, November 14th at 6:30, but we'll have two-fifths of the board at conference, or?
I'll
Well,
be
we-
at conference.
Yeah, we won't go to
Are we
conference
going
till
to have
after the Tuesday board
students
meeting.
at conferences here?
We're gonna talk to them about it. We haven't done that yet.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry. We're gonna like blow the surprise.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 8:12. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.